I'd like to call next Professor Alison Halstead, who's Pro-Vice Chancellor for Strategic Academic Developments at Aston University. And she's going to speak to us about building research capability through partnerships between the UK and the ASEAN Research Hub in Vietnam.
Well, good morning, everybody. And wasn't it really exciting there to hear from David initially about the SME work that they've been doing in Wales? My own university, Aston, carry out something very similar in the West Midlands. And then I think David Priestley from Rolls-Royce, didn't he paint just a fantastic vision for surely what we want to achieve here in Vietnam if all employers in Vietnam could invest in the universities, whether they be large businesses or small businesses, to achieve some of the outputs that David was indicating. It would be fantastic. Now, at this point, I'm sure it seems a long way away, but in my talk now, I'd like to focus on perhaps some of the first steps, particularly as David said, things have to start. And really, what we have been doing here, and when I say we, Aston have been representing the UK and working with the University of Da Nang. And up to this point, we've had two projects, one on employer engagement, which actually David Priestley and I think Albert Law, who's sitting at the back from My Duke Ceramic, a small business, have supported the development, and also running leadership programs. But today, really, I want to talk about the research capacity that we could build, and the fact that we've just received £600,000 worth of funding to actually create this hub in the University of Da Nang. And this event really is an opportunity, one, to share that, but also to pick up some ideas about priorities in taking it forward. So really, what is it? What are we planning to do? How can we get employers engaged? What are the objectives? Have we actually started doing anything yet? And perhaps final comments on what success looks like. Well, this project's only 3 years. I think David painted a vision for 30 years. Yes, let's in Vietnam have lots of university technical colleges, university commercial colleges, universal entrepreneurial innovation centres. And that might be 20, 30 years ago. But for now, 1 or 2 steps which perhaps take us on the road collectively to where we'd like to go. So what is it? For people that don't know Da Nang, this is where the new UK ASEAN Research Hub will be located. The 600,000 is very much coming from the British Council, from the Foreign Commonwealth Office, and Aston, my own university, and Da Nang. Although we're shortly hoping for a major contribution from the Ministry of Education and Training with the funding for the new university, Vietnam, UK, which is also to be based in accommodation here in Da Nang. So our initial plans are really to invest in staff, to build partnerships in common areas of research between the UK and Vietnam. For faculty without PhDs to actually be supported to go to the UK. The 911 scholarship programme already does this. However, funding here will allow researchers to take short visits. Sometimes people with PhDs already just need 2 or 3 months visiting the UK, perhaps using some equipment there before being able to return. So these are options within it. Linked to the Vietnam UK project, we're also due to be starting an MSc in quality in international higher education. I spoke about this yesterday. And this is all about developing research skills and ability to use modern methods of teaching, as well as doing research around quality. We have aspirations there that people will move on in that area to conduct PhD research. It's all about skills, It's all about partners, and it's all about having either companies or affiliated members to work with. We've also been in country running business courses, directors programs, companies like Suntory Pepsi, Vietnam Airlines, Rolls-Royce. Huge desire from industry to engage with universities for these projects, for master's projects, for PhDs. The other aspect we will be launching in September 2016, which again takes us a path around the focus of the disciplines in the new hub, we'll be launching telecommunications and international management with finance and accounting. So that's really a bit of a blur with the bigger VN UK project, but to come back to the research hub and focus on what are the main objectives for that. Just 3 disciplines. As you'll appreciate, with only £600,000, you can't offer support on all disciplines going. But from our recent work with employers, what we have been led to believe is that key areas, particularly in Vietnam, but on a recent visit to Laos, I think this was reinforced, in wireless networking, telecommunications, are quite key areas, along with software engineering. And that seems to be quite universal. Matches with strengths, certainly at Aston, I think at Bangor as well. So there's several partners that very much focus on this area. Biotechnology, I have colleagues with me today. They've just won a researcher link. A lot of activity here in Ho Chi Minh City, but also themes that I think there is a lot of academic university interest in Laos, in Cambodia and Thailand. Finance accounting, well, the whole world runs on money, doesn't it? Some of our recent partners, KPMG, HSBC, yes, they want highly skilled people. They're happy to offer work in that environment. And even some of the small firms, as David was talking about, small businesses, really do want to engage with highly qualified staff to develop research outputs. Another initiative that the British Council here in Vietnam have recently supported was Researcher Links. And 2 of those are to be launched next year in telecommunications and biotechnology. So I hope as an audience you're now starting to feel there's a common theme here. With limited resource, you have to focus on the areas. And I think you have to focus on areas of employment and areas of strength. We hope we have identified those areas. If not, at this stage, we're in the planning stage, so we're open to suggestions of other areas. But the main push is about research skills, giving time to researchers to develop those skills, particularly towards writing for publication, and perhaps even more important, writing bids for successful income. And one of the fantastic things I think about a partnership between Europe and Asia is the ASEAN EU funding streams. Only this week I've been in discussions with people who've been incredibly successful. As Europeans, we can't be successful on ourselves. As ASEAN region, you can't. But together, we can be really, really successful. And of course, the interest is all round telecoms, biotechnology, and finance and accounting, the world of international banking. And the aim for the project is very much by the end, people are publishing only small numbers into international conferences, securing funding, and from there, publishing journal articles. So to come back to the 4 objectives, it's a small scheme, and it's the same recurring theme that I'm talking about. It's about partners. It's a critical mass. It's to allow the UK to work with people in Vietnam, Cambodia and Laos. that think the same, want to achieve the same, and want to make a difference, and to do it collectively for a huge benefit. It all relies on research skills development, mentoring, buddying, having support from industry, and it's also about high quality publication, English language support there for publication around it, and back to the thing I mentioned, we have to be raising money. We have to find those sources. We have to have the themes that interest people. So things are already happening. There have been some research seminars in finance and accounting. We spent last year working with some of the banks, with some of the employers, to actually get employer engagement groups, alumni groups, and employer databases. I believe the employers in Vietnam want to pay for researchers, want to invest in people. We just have to understand the dialogue that we need with them and to be able to communicate them. We have a database now of something like 150 employers. In the last year, I've not met one employer in Vietnam who doesn't want to work more closely with universities. I think we heard from David that one of the problems is universities and educational environments are so large, they don't always know who to have a conversation with. Hopefully with the ASEAN UK Research Hub, it's a one-stop. That's where they can come to have that dialogue. We've got researcher links seminars operating. The whole point here is to identify what skills are needed. A lot of talent around. There's no point deciding we'll put a workshop on in something if that skill's not needed. It may be more about sourcing a high quality journal. It may be about accessing electronic resource for that publication. We need to identify these before we plan. We're also going to invite, say, partners from Laos and Cambodia. It's delightful, I think, to be at the event where we have got representation from Laos. I think we share a very common road and understanding of the challenges of that road, which we heard about yesterday. So, what's really going to happen? And I said, too often we hear about grand plans. Let's just look at what next. We need to identify the people in Vietnam and in Laos who are really interested in these areas. We need to get them together with colleagues in the UK. They need to want to work together. Everything might be technology these days, but the best business goes on face to face with a real common aim. Very, very important. We're going to continue through the life of the project to promote and actually run research and development more widely across Vietnam with our colleagues from Thailand, Cambodia and Laos invited to join. We're also going to track down key conferences. If you can only write one paper in a year, the important thing is to put it into the right conference, to get support for your journey, to meet that international network there, and hopefully pick up another opportunity for funding. So the selection of where we target, I think, is really, really important. And I come back to there, it's all about funding opportunities. But together, I believe we can do it. So in 3 years' time, it might not be David Priestley from Rolls-Royce's dream of a university technical college, but what should it look like? I think this group will have submitted high-quality papers to key journals. I think we will have made grant applications. As I said, there's tremendous vibrance, there's tremendous talent. We have the right conversations, and collectively, we will have the right skills. I think there's scope to expand into different research areas as we identify more employers that want to work with us and the partnerships that we will need to develop and take that journey. I would love to get something like a £10 million ASEAN EU research grant. It would be fantastic. I think in the bid, we've set it at about 500,000. But I think having higher aspirations is always something you should go for and then compromise. So I think if we dream of 10 million and get 1 million, we will have achieved something. But actually it's also about research exchange. It's about understanding the challenges in both of our cultures. And I believe that with this startup funding, which is what it is, followed by the Vietnam government's creation of the new university at Da Nang, we can all very slowly start down the road to the visions, I think, that were painted earlier by the two Davids. So that's all I'd like to say. I'm also happy to take questions at the end, but I hope that's given people food for thought. Thank you very much indeed.